Yo, what's up, guys? Teacher Paul here, and today we're reacting to this coffee request from Nami. Kamsamida, thank you for the request, and thank you for the coffee. Nami says, if you look at the map, you'll see that although it's connected to the continent in the north, it borders North Korea. So it's practically like an island, and it's also the front line, the very edge between socialism and communism. It's a strategically important location in East Asia, and since it has the sea, mountains, and farmland, its cuisine naturally developed with a lot of variety. So, obviously, we're talking about the insane geography of North and South Korea. This is from a channel called Geography by Joff or Jeff. Link is in the description if you want to go check out the video without my reaction, but come back to see my reaction to it. Let's go.
What if I told you there's a border so stark it's visible from space as a line between blinding light and near total darkness? Or that this same dividing line, the most heavily militarized zone on Earth, has accidentally become a teeming paradise for endangered wildlife? From a single city that holds half a country's population,
What was that?
a teeming paradise for endangered.
The second one, it looks like a mixture of a llama with a deer with a, I don't know. That looks very, very unique. Such a unique animal. I didn't know you guys had so unique animals, such unique animals. Is that last one a leopard? The second last one, that looks like a, what? It looks like a badger bear. A bear badger, kind of. I don't know. It's so interesting.
Wildlife, from a single city that holds half a country's population to an ancient kingdom that once stretched deep into China. The Korean Peninsula is a land of staggering geographic extremes. So here are...
Do you think in North Korea there are like endangered animals that nobody knows about, or like unique animals because we can't go there, or like ocean? You know, I feel like there are so many species in the ocean that we haven't seen yet because we don't have access to it. Absolutely insane.
China. The Korean Peninsula is a land of staggering geographic extremes. So here are 15 incredible geography facts you never knew about Korea.
Let's go. Let's find out now. 70%
The Korean Peninsula
mountain.
is defined by its rugged landscape, with approximately 70% of its landmass covered by mountains and uplands.
Wow.
The most dominant range is the Taebaek Mountains, which runs like a spine down the eastern coast. This topographic feature is the peninsula's main watershed. Because these mountains are so close to the eastern sea, the east coast is steep and has few coastal plains. Consequently, the majority of Korea's...
Thank you, Nami, for the coffee. Guys, if you want to request videos, this is how you do it, through the coffee website in the linked pinned comment.
The east coast is steep and has few coastal plains. Consequently, the majority of Korea's population...
What Nami is saying, there are even fewer animals in North Korea. They caught and ate everything. Dude. Because there was no food? Okay. And since they cut down all the trees in the mountains due to the cold, there's no place for the animals to live. Oh, that's so sad.
Steep and has few coastal plains. Consequently, the majority of Korea's population, agriculture, and major cities, like Seoul and Pyongyang, are concentrated in the flatter, wider plains of the western and southern regions.
Survival.
This mountainous terrain has historically isolated regions, creating natural defenses, and heavily influenced everything from military strategy to regional dialects.
Ah, yeah, of course. 3,500 islands.
While often viewed as a singular peninsula, Korea is a vast archipelago. Off its southern and western coasts lie an estimated 3,500 islands, collectively known as the Korean archipelago. The vast majority of these islands are small, rocky, and uninhabited. The western and southern coastlines are ryukoss, meaning they are complex and jagged with many inlets, formed as rising sea levels drowned ancient river valleys. This intricate geography creates a rich marine environment and countless natural harbors. The largest of these islands include Jeju Island, an autonomous province, Jeojedo, a major shipbuilding center, and Jindo, famous for its tidal phenomenon that briefly creates a land bridge to a nearby island.
home to
Korea's
two
most iconic mountains are
volcanoes.
both volcanoes. Baekdu Mountain, on the border between North Korea and China, is the highest peak on the peninsula and is sacred in Korean culture as the spiritual origin of the Korean people. It's an active stratovolcano with a massive caldera at its summit, which holds the stunningly beautiful Heaven
Baekdu.
Lake. In the far south is Halasan, a shield volcano that forms the majority of
Wow.
Jeju Island. As South Korea's highest peak, Halasan is ecologically distinct from the mainland, boasting a unique alpine ecosystem and a crater lake at its summit. Both volcanoes are dormant, but not extinct, and remain significant cultural and geological landmarks.
Opposite coasts.
The Korean Peninsula's coastline is dramatically asymmetrical. East coast, facing the East Sea, is geologically young, steep, and remarkably straight. The Taebaek Mountains drop almost directly into the sea, leaving behind a very narrow coastal plain and few good harbors. In stark contrast, the western and southern coasts are highly irregular, complex, and dotted with thousands of islands. This is a Ria coastline, characterized by drowned river valleys. The Yellow Sea is extremely shallow, which combined with the coastline's funnel-like bays, produces one of the world's most extreme tidal ranges. These vast tidal
Gosh.
mudflats, known as Getball, are crucial ecological habitats that have been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Major rivers flow to.
The
Wait.
drainage pattern
Let me just talk about this for a second. Did you see how the water rises? I've been in one of these where you can just walk, right? Walk and walk and walk. And like the water was very shallow, but at some point it starts filling up. And it's so dangerous because you can't go back because it's like really rising. So you got to be careful with those. Is that the same thing here? I feel like it is, right?
crucial ecological.
Two directions.
The drainage pattern of the Korean Peninsula
Hi,
is a
Susan.
direct result of its high east, low west topography. The Taebaek Mountains, the peninsula's primary range, runs along the eastern side, forming a massive watershed. Because its range is so close to the east coast, rivers flowing eastward are short, steep, and fast. Conversely, all of the peninsula's major rivers, including the Amnok and Duman in the north and Nokdon in the south, originate in the eastern mountains and flow for hundreds of kilometers west or south. They meander across the broad western and southern plains, depositing rich sediments and creating fertile land for agriculture before emptying into the Yellow Sea or the Korea Strait. By the way, if you love geography and want to dive deeper into the stories of places people
Sponsor
love,
time.
come join me over on Substack. Every week, I publish additional articles and insights that go beyond the videos, exploring the fascinating details of
Go
our planet.
support
It's the
him,
perfect
guys.
companion for anyone curious about this crazy world we live in. Oh, and best of all, it's 100% free to subscribe. So sign up using the link in the description below, or just scan the QR code that's been on your screen this whole time.
The bridge and the battleground.
Korea's peninsular location, nestled between China, Russia, and Japan, has been the single most important factor in its history. This geography made it a cultural land bridge. Chinese writing systems, Confucian philosophy, and Buddhism all passed from China through Korea and were adapted before being introduced to Japan. However, this strategic position also made it a geopolitical battleground. The peninsula has been a target for invasion and a flashpoint for regional conflicts for centuries. From the
100%,
Mongol invasions
yeah.
of the 13th century to the Sino-Japanese and Russo-Japanese wars. This dual role of being a conduit for culture and a magnet for conflict defines all of Korea's identity.
It's a privileged location they have there, which makes it sought after. People would just want to take over.
Identity. The original division of Korea, one of the most lasting scars of the 20th century, was not based on any existing geographic, cultural, or historic boundary. It was an artificial line on a map. In the final days of World War II in August 1945, with the
I've
Japanese
heard of
Empire
this.
collapsing, the US and the Soviet Union
So they just made a line, right? I feel like that happened with India and Pakistan as well, where somebody just took a map and made a line and divided the country.
historic boundary. It was an artificial line on a map. In the final days of World War II in August 1945, with the Japanese Empire collapsing, the US and the Soviet Union needed to divide the peninsula for the purpose of accepting the Japanese surrender. Two young US Army officers, Dean Rusk and Charles Bonesteel, were given 30 minutes to find a dividing line.
Oh,
They
wow.
chose the 38th parallel north, simply because it split the peninsula roughly in half and placed the capital, Seoul, in the American zone. This hastily drawn, temporary administrative line soon hardened into a permanent political border.
Dang, guys. A lot of things could have been different if they had more time just to decide and figure out how things would have played out. Because just drawing a line in the map doesn't really, man, it doesn't really help in any way. That's absolutely insane. Imagine if they had put a little bit of thought into it. Would it be any different? Let me know your thoughts. Maybe it wouldn't. But from what I understand, British split India and Pakistan due to religious and political reasons, and the people there were victims as well. Well, kind of. It wasn't like what they did was, oh, where is the biggest concentration? Over here. Okay. And then they just split it, right? But the thing is, they didn't really split it in a reasonable way. It was basically the same over here, because if you go to the north of India, you'll see that they understand each other, like Urdu and Hindi. It's similar. They understand each other, and also they have the same beliefs in many parts. So it's very, it's very similar, especially like in the border. But anyways, history, it's history, right? History is what it is.
The Korean Demilitarized Zone is a 250-kilometer long, 4-kilometer wide buffer
Hi, Anna.
zone created by the 1953 armistice that halted the Korean War. As one of the most heavily militarized borders in the world, human access has been almost completely forbidden for over 70 years. This absence of people has created an unintended and unique nature sanctuary. The forests, wetlands,
Wow.
and grasslands within the DMZ have recovered from the war and now serve as a vital habitat for thousands of species, many of which are endangered or have disappeared from the rest of the developed peninsula. This accidental paradise is a critical stopover for migratory birds, including the red-crowned and white-naped cranes, and is home to the Asiatic black bears, water deer, and possibly even
Water
the critically
deer,
endangered
that's what it
Amur
is.
leopard.
Amur leopard.
The mountainous geography of Korea directly shaped its ancient political landscape. The peninsula's rugged ranges created natural barriers and fortresses, which influenced the formation and borders of the three kingdoms, Goguryeo, Baekje, and Silla. Goguryeo in the north was a formidable military power based in the high altitude, rugged terrain of northern Korea and Manchuria. Baekje occupied the fertile plains of the southwest, and Silla was nestled in the southeastern corner, protected by the Sobek mountain range. These mountains not only provided natural defenses, many of Korea's most famous
Ooh, we
ancient
saw.
fortresses are built along strategic ridges, but also
Didn't we see this on another video? We saw this this temple here. We saw it in another video where the family was under the snow, didn't we?
defenses, many of Korea's most famous ancient
Gojung. No, what's the name? Don't remember. Did he say it? He didn't say it, did he?
Baek mountain range. These mountains not only provided natural defenses, many of Korea's most famous ancient fortresses are built along strategic ridges, but also isolated the kingdoms, allowing them to develop distinct cultural identities before Silla eventually unified the peninsula in the year 668.
A lost northern territory.
The modern borders of the Korean peninsula do not reflect its largest historic extent. The Goguryeo Kingdom, one of the three kingdoms, was a
Goguryeo.
massive empire that dominated power in East Asia. At its peak in the 5th century, Goguryeo controlled not only the northern half of the Korean peninsula, but also a vast territory stretching deep into modern-day China, encompassing most of what is now Manchuria. Its territory also extended into parts of modern-day Russia and Mongolia. This history is a source of modern political and historic friction.
They
as the
lost all of that
geographic legacy
territory.
of this lost northern territory is a key part of Korean national identity, while China also claims the kingdom as part of its own regional history.
South Korea's mega metropolis.
South Korea exhibits one of the most extreme examples of urban concentration on Earth. The Seoul capital area, a single metropolitan region that includes the capital city of Seoul, the port city of Incheon, and the surrounding Gyeonggi province, is home to over 26 million people. This means that more than 50% of South Korea's entire population lives in this one urban cluster, which accounts for only about 12% of the country's total land area. This hyper
Do you guys have inequality in Korea? I mean, obviously, I watched the movie Parasite, and I saw some of that. Thank you, Nami, for the coffee request, guys. This is how you request videos. And they were talking about that the inequality. You know, in the movie Parasite, they talked about the differences between rich family and poor families. But how big is the inequality? What is the gap? How big is that gap? Because when I see Metropolis, it reminds me of my hometown, and the inequality is huge. There are so many people living in poverty, and there are so many people living in riches. In fact, my home city generates a millionaire per day. A person becomes a millionaire every single day. So, and also there are people who live on well, government benefits, which is around less than half of the minimum wage, which the minimum wage isn't enough to live anyway. So that's crazy. But anyways, what about in Korea? Is it huge or is it reasonable? And also Squid Game talks about that a little bit, right? People who are in debt. It's a lot of people in debt and in poverty.
Concentration is the engine of the nation's economy, culture,
Because I know that South Korea is considered a first world country, right? So I can imagine you do have a little bit of it under control, right? Or no?
the country's total land area. This hyper-concentration is the engine of the nation's economy, culture, and political life, but it also creates immense challenges, including the world's lowest fertility rate, extreme housing costs, and massive regional imbalances between the capital region and the rest of the country.
Ami is asking, isn't it the same for every country? I don't think so. Not the way it is in my country. Like here in the UK, for example, you can live off of benefits. You can. The government even pays for your rent if you can't afford it. You have access to healthcare. Like you have a way of living. And when you go to the supermarket, whatever I buy, you can buy. Whatever you can buy, I can buy. You know. And in terms of the salaries, the manager normally only gets 1,000 or 2,000 British pounds more than you do. What I'm talking about is, while one person is receiving 1,000, another person is receiving 100,000. That's like a huge difference. While one person is buying Wagyu steak, the other one can't even buy steak. You know, they have to buy eggs, and sometimes eggs are so expensive too. So, and I'm talking about a big portion of the population. You know, I'm not talking about like 1 in 100. No, it's more like 1 in a million. You know, or the other way around. You get the point, right?
When the 38th parallel was drawn in 1945, it created a profound economic imbalance by splitting the peninsula's complementary resources. The mountainous north was awarded the vast majority of the peninsula's industrial infrastructure, built by the Japanese, and an estimated 90% of its valuable mineral resources, including coal, iron ore, and magnesite. In contrast, the flatter south was left with a light industrial base, but received the vast majority of the peninsula's arable land and its most productive agricultural plains. In the mid-20th century, the resource-rich north was poised for greater success, while the agricultural south was one of the poorest countries in the world. But
Wow,
after
I
the
didn't know
Korean War
that.
divided the country once again, South Korea surged well ahead of its northern sibling.
So wait a second. You're telling me that North Korea had a head start? They had everything to actually be a more successful country. That's crazy. It's crazy how the Soviet Union just destroyed so many different countries, right, with their regime. That is so crazy. Dang. Building land from
Due
sea.
to its mountainous terrain and high population density, usable land in South Korea is incredibly scarce. To solve this, the country has become a world leader in land reclamation. The most staggering example is the Saemangeum seawall. Completed in 2010, it's the longest man-made sea dike in the world, stretching 33.9 kilometers across a coastal estuary. The project dammed the sea to reclaim roughly 400 square kilometers of land and tidal flats, an
Okay,
area
wow.
about 2/3 the size of Seoul. Originally intended for agriculture, this massive new land is now being developed as a hub for industry, tourism, and renewable energy, showcasing an extreme form of human environmental engineering. South Korea's population is squeezed into its coastal plains, resulting in extreme population density. With over 52 million people living on just over 100,000 square kilometers,
Wow.
its population density is roughly 507 people per square kilometer. This figure is almost 10 times the global average. When you exclude
Wow,
small
guys, I
city-states
didn't
and
know.
micronations like Singapore, Monaco, or Bahrain, South Korea is one of the top 3 most densely populated countries in the world, alongside Bangladesh and Taiwan. This density is even more
So do you have a lot of people walking in the streets? Is it like, do you ever feel like it's overcrowded? Because I know Japan feels overcrowded. Well, at least I've heard people say that. Is it the same as in South Korea? And also, Nami just mentioned a few things over here about the factories. I had no idea South Korea was one of the poorest countries at that time. Obviously, I knew because of the war, it became, extremely hard. But that makes it more impressive that South Korea is where it is today. How you guys overcame. It's amazing.
extreme in practice, since 70% of the Bangladesh and Taiwan. This density is even more extreme in practice, since 70% of the land is uninhabitable mountains, forcing the population into crowded, highly urbanized cities and creating a society defined by
Wow.
high-rise apartments, intense competition, and hyper-efficient public infrastructure.
That actually looks like my home city.
Highly urbanized cities and creating a society
That actually looks like the metropolis I'm from.
defined by high-rise apartments, intense competition, and hyper-efficient public infrastructure.
A divide you can
One of
see
the
from
most dramatic
space.
visualizations of the Korean Divide is the satellite view of the peninsula at night. Photos from the International Space Station show South Korea blazing with light, a dense network
Wow.
of cities and highways indistinguishable from other wealthy developed nations. In sharp contrast, North Korea is almost entirely black, a void of darkness between South Korea and China. The only exception is a single faint cluster of light, its
city.
capital, Pyongyang. This stark visual, that only shows a pinprick of life, is a powerful illustration of the country's severe
my
energy
gosh.
crisis and the profound economic and human geography gap between the two Koreas. I opted to showcase the geography of the entire Korean peninsula because, despite their current division, they really are one people with a single shared history bounded by their incredible geography. Of course, I don't think they're going to reunite anytime soon, but sometimes it's worth looking at the bigger picture and the land people come from. Speaking of fascinating land, this week I'm in Armenia, exploring one of their greenest and lushest regions. And of course, it comes with a few ancient monasteries. So come join me over on my travel channel. I hope you enjoyed learning all about the Korean Peninsula. If you did, be sure to check out this video all about Canada's Atlantic provinces. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Dang, guys. That last image right there, this is such an eye-opener. Gosh. This used to be the same country. The same, it used to be the same. And now look at the difference, the division here. That's what division does, It really ruins a country, or at least part of a country. Some people oppose reunification because they believe Korea would become very poor again if it were to happen. I don't think so. I think when you're united, it tends to grow. And honestly, look at how many people would want to go to the north of a unified Korea, right? Everybody would want to go and see. So I think the economy would grow very fast, especially the tourism, because when you open the doors to the unified Korea, everybody will want to go to the north. So I feel like with a little bit of investment, and people would definitely want to go, because a lot of people really, really are curious about it. And not only foreigners, I think even people from South Korea would want to go to the north and see how it is and I feel like the economy would go fast. It would take some time, but I think the economy would go fast. And also, unifying and having, I think it would just grow stronger. But what is your opinion, guys? Let me know. Sadly, most of the people who were searching for their family members have passed away by now. Yeah, indeed. Um, yeah, it wouldn't help in that sense. But maybe the families could find generations, and find out what happened to their loved ones in the past, I guess. Let me know your thoughts, guys. We watched a movie about, it's not really about the separation of North and South, but it is, which is Ode to My Father. You can watch my reaction to that on my channel with my wife. The link is also in the description if you want to go watch it on Patreon or Buy Me Coffee. Link is in the pinned comments as well. Click over here for more, and I'll see you soon, guys. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. Let me know a little bit more if you have any information to add in the comments. Bye-bye.